Hold on, Jayda finally airing out the truth about Ari and Lil Baby? Now that was not on my 2024 bingo card. There are plenty of headlines I'd expect Jayda to make, but this revelation? Completely unexpected. Let's be honest, Lil Baby's reputation for stepping out wasn't exactly a secret. But crossing that particular line, getting involved with Ari while knowing she and Jayda were close friends, that's beyond messy. That's reckless. And when you zoom out, it starts to paint a bigger picture. Maybe that's why Moneybagg Yo has been moving the way he has all these years. One person cheats, the other returns the favor, and suddenly loyalty is nowhere to be found. But the real questions are, how did Jayda find out, and why is she choosing now to speak after years of silence? Buckle up. If you've followed Jayda and Ari closely, you already know their friendship hasn't existed for quite some time. What made the fallout confusing at first was the fact that, from the outside, everything seemed solid. At one point, they were inseparable. Back then, Jayda was still with Lil Baby, and Lil Baby and Moneybagg Yo were constantly collaborating. Studio sessions, performances, joint appearances, you name it. Naturally, Jayda and Ari kept running into each other. One encounter turned into many, and before long, they were hanging out, traveling together, and publicly supporting their men, even while those men were being unfaithful. The friendship looked genuine, until it didn't. Things started to shift when Ari's close friend, Gigi, posted something slick on Instagram that many people interpreted as a shot at Jayda, accusing her of cheating on Lil Baby. What raised eyebrows wasn't just the post itself, but Ari's silence. As someone who claimed loyalty to Jayda, many expected her to shut that down immediately. Instead, she let Gigi drag the situation out publicly without stepping in. Oddly enough, after all that tension, Ari and Jayda went right back to appearing together, smiling for cameras like nothing had happened. Still, the rumors wouldn't die. Viewers began pointing out subtle discomfort, awkward body language, forced interactions, energy that just didn't align. Some people felt Jayda sensed something was off but either didn't want to stir drama or didn't know how to confront it. That uneasy dynamic became impossible to ignore when both women appeared on the Impact Atlanta. From the moment they shared the screen, comparisons were constant. Jayda openly admitted she felt uneasy around Ari, explaining that she believed there was hidden resentment beneath the surface. Ari pushed back, insisting Jayda was letting social media opinions cloud her judgment. The audience wasn't kind. Many viewers sided against Jayda, accusing her of insecurity and attitude issues. But watching closely, some people interpreted it differently. They felt Jayda wasn't intimidated by Ari's looks, but by her presence. Ari's bold personality, her ease in the spotlight, the way attention naturally followed her, it shifted the room's energy. And when someone who's used to being centered suddenly isn't, jealousy and discomfort can creep in quietly. Behind the scenes, things reportedly escalated fast. According to insiders, the backlash hit Jayda hard enough that she approached producers with a firm demand: remove Ari, or she was done. Production refused, allegedly fearing public backlash and disruption to the show's balance. With neither side willing to compromise, Jayda chose to walk away entirely, canceling her contract and exiting the series for good. Once that decision became public, the internet did what it does best, filled in the blanks with speculation. Online commentators quickly reframed the situation as Jayda being unable to handle competition. Blogs, memes, reaction videos, and hot takes flooded timelines, painting her exit as jealousy rather than self-preservation. What started as a behind-the-scenes contract dispute morphed into a full-blown narrative, shaped less by facts and more by perception. And just like that, the story grew bigger than the truth itself. While all of that was unfolding, a quieter rumor kept resurfacing in the background, one that many people had whispered about for years but no one had openly confronted. Some believed the tension had little to do with television contracts or bruised egos and far more to do with Lil Baby himself. Online chatter suggested that Ari had allegedly been involved with him, and given Jayda's long, complicated history with Lil Baby, people started connecting dots on their own. For a long time, Jayda neither confirmed nor denied any of it. That silence only made the speculation louder, because in the age of social media, saying nothing is often mistaken for admitting everything. That all shifted just a few days ago during a TikTok live. At first, nothing about it felt unusual. Jayda was relaxed, chatting with followers, discussing her skincare routine, answering random questions, and laughing her way through the comments. The mood was light, almost intimate, like one of those casual lives where nothing serious ever comes up. She scrolled, responded, joked around, and kept things flowing. Then someone decided to stir the pot. A comment popped up asking about the TikTok rumors involving Ari and Lil Baby. The room seemed to pause. Jayda read the comment aloud, and instead of skipping over it or deflecting, she went straight for it. According to people watching in real time, She confirmed that the rumors were true, saying that what everyone had been claiming about Ari and Lil Baby had actually happened. That single response lit the internet on fire. Screen recordings spread almost instantly, jumping from TikTok to blogs and timelines within minutes. For some, that alone would have been enough chaos, but Jayda wasn't done. Shortly after, she appeared on another TikTok live, this time with Woo Lady. The energy was noticeably different. Jayda seemed more animated, less filtered. During that conversation, she doubled down on her earlier statement, again claiming Ari had slept with Lil Baby. She escalated things further by using harsh language, referring to Ari as a 304, which immediately divided viewers. Some praised her for finally saying what she'd allegedly been holding in for years, while others felt she crossed a line by making such personal accusations so publicly. Then came another layer. Jayda posted a video of herself rapping along to a Nicki Minaj song, choosing lyrics many viewers interpreted as a direct shot at Ari. Given everything that had just happened, the timing felt intentional. Fans wasted no time dissecting the post, flooding the comments with reactions and theories. One supporter wrote, "You absolutely did not stutter on that live, Queen," applauding Jayda for standing firm. Jayda replied with a single word, "Bin." Short, sharp, and loaded. Many took it as confirmation that she wasn't backtracking on anything she'd said. Not long after, she made yet another statement that grabbed attention. She claimed she had too much money to lie on 304s and risk a defamation lawsuit, ending the message with a blunt "good night." That comment spread quickly. Supporters argued that no one would confidently say something like that if it wasn't true, while critics reminded everyone that confidence doesn't equal proof. Still, in the court of public opinion, her certainty carried weight. What surprised a lot of people most was what Jayda said happened next. According to her, after the alleged situation with Lil Baby, Ari went on to form a close friendship with Young Miami, despite knowing that Young Miami also had interest in Lil Baby at the time. To Jayda, that detail crossed yet another boundary, making the entire situation feel even more disrespectful. To outsiders, it just added another layer of mess to an already tangled mix of relationships, loyalty, and rivalry. As all of this unfolded, social media turned into a war zone. Jayda supporters defended her fiercely, arguing she had every right to leave the show and speak out about what she viewed as betrayal. Others accused her of being bitter, dragging the situation out, or trying to reshape the narrative after walking away. Meanwhile, Ari's supporters pushed back, pointing out that everything being shared was still based on allegations and one-sided accounts. They noted that Ari hadn't fully addressed many of the claims herself, leaving room for doubt, and ensuring the debate was far from over. By the time everything settled, it was obvious that what began as a simple disagreement over a reality show contract had spiraled into something much bigger. What should have stayed a behind-the-scenes business issue turned into a very public saga tangled with friendships, rumored betrayals, and unresolved history tied to Lil Baby. TikTok lives were clipped within seconds, comments were analyzed like evidence, and every post, no matter how small, was treated as a coded message. No matter where people landed, fully believing Jayda, standing firmly with Ari, or assuming the truth lived somewhere in between, one thing was undeniable: social media turned a personal situation into permanent digital history. What once might have been whispered in private is now frozen in screenshots, screen recordings, and endless online debates. And the mess didn't stop there. Jayda and Young Miami ended up circling each other over Lil Baby in a way that felt layered, calculated, and far from accidental. It all kicked off when Miami openly said she wouldn't mind hooking up with Lil Baby. On the surface, she framed it as harmless joking, laughing it off, keeping things playful, never outright saying she was making a move. But context matters. Miami isn't careless with her words, and she knows exactly how the internet reacts when certain names are mentioned. She understands timing, optics, and how to stir conversation without ever fully crossing a line. That's where things start to feel intentional. If Miami already knew about Ari's alleged past with Lil Baby, then that joke takes on a different meaning. Suddenly, it doesn't feel random, it feels like a subtle provocation. A playful comment on the outside, but a deliberate poke underneath. Anyone familiar with female dynamics knows how this works. It's not loud. It's not direct. It's a test. A jab hidden inside a laugh. If the other person reacts, you can dismiss it as never that deep. If they don't, you walk away feeling like you made your point. Jayda, for her part, wasn't entertaining it. She didn't rant. She didn't go live to explain herself. She chose restraint, but not silence. First, she replied to a TikTok discussing the situation with a single word: child. One word, heavy with meaning. Dismissive. Knowing. A quiet way of saying, I see what you're doing, and I'm not impressed. Then came Instagram. Jayda posted, "Weird was definitely on sale this year." That wasn't vague. That wasn't accidental. It was a clear shot, calling out behavior that felt off, attention-seeking, and unnecessary. The internet clocked it instantly. Screenshots spread, timelines filled up, and people started connecting dots the way only social media can, frame by frame, caption by caption. Just when things couldn't get more uncomfortable, they somehow did. Internet detectives noticed that Miami's mother had been active in Lil Baby's comment section, dropping side-eye emojis. Not playful reactions. Not support. Just straight side-eye. And that detail added a whole new layer. Because now it wasn't just Miami's words or Ari's history. Family involvement, even subtle, makes everything feel more deliberate. When parents start engaging during already messy situations, it rarely feels random. It feels like quiet alignment. That alone was enough to make people question motives. Was all of this coincidence? Or was there an inside joke playing out in public that only certain people understood? For Jayda, even keeping her composure online, watching all of that unfold had to hit a nerve. Then things really escalated. Not long after, Lil Baby brought Miami out on stage during one of his performances. What should have been a standard guest appearance instantly took a different turn. The energy shifted. Miami walked on stage confident, comfortable, fully in the moment, and she didn't keep it strictly professional. The flirting was obvious. She wasn't distant. She wasn't in and out. She leaned all the way in. And then she started dancing on him, right there, in front of thousands. At that point, the "it's just jokes" argument completely fell apart. That moment wasn't subtle or open to interpretation. It was loud, physical, and unmistakable. Lil Baby didn't shut it down. He didn't step back. He matched the energy. The crowd loved it, but the internet immediately went into overdrive. Some people called it disrespectful, especially given everything that had already happened. Others shrugged it off, saying everyone involved is grown and free to do whatever they want. But context doesn't disappear just because people are adults. When you line everything up, the comment, Jayda's shade, Ari's alleged history, the emojis, and then that performance, it starts to look less like coincidence and more like a pattern. What really poured gasoline on the fire was how unbothered Ari appeared throughout all of it. If anything, she seemed entertained. A lot of people started saying it was painfully obvious that she didn't regret sleeping with Lil Baby, not even slightly. And what made it sting more was the growing sense that she and Miami might have been sharing some kind of inside joke. The likes, reposts, and reactions told a story of their own. To many viewers, it looked like they were laughing together while Jayda stood on the outside, watching it all unfold. That's when the tone of the conversation shifted for a lot of people. Friendship can fade, but loyalty hits differently. When it feels like someone knowingly crossed a line, especially one tied to someone's past, it changes the entire lens. One viral comment captured that sentiment perfectly: Ari is dirty. Never was a friend. It was just one opinion, but it echoed what many had been thinking quietly. Sometimes one sentence says what hundreds of people feel but can't quite articulate. From there, the situation turned into a much bigger discussion about boundaries, respect, and how women navigate shared spaces when men complicate the equation. Some people blamed Miami for ever making the comment. Others felt Jayda reacted too strongly. Plenty pointed the finger at Lil Baby for feeding the chaos. And then there were those who felt Ari's silence, and selective reactions, spoke louder than any statement ever could. Everyone picked a side. Neutral ground disappeared quickly. What's clear is that this wasn't just a harmless moment blown out of proportion. Too many details lined up. Too many reactions followed. And too many people involved made choices that escalated things instead of calming them down. Whether Miami intended to stir drama or not, the outcome was the same. Jayda felt disrespected. The internet split into camps. And another private situation became a public spectacle the moment it hit social media. In the end, no one walked away untouched. Feelings were bruised. Trust was questioned. Lines became blurry. And while the internet will eventually move on, as it always does, the people at the center of this will remember exactly when jokes stopped being funny and shade turned into something heavier. Even when friendships end, there's an invisible boundary most people instinctively understand. That's where many viewers feel emotionally stuck. Shared history doesn't vanish just because communication fades. When two people once exchange trust, vulnerability, and real-life moments, there's an unspoken code that lingers long after things go quiet. That's why this situation unsettled so many. It didn't feel like natural distance. It felt deliberate, performative, personal. One comment captured that feeling perfectly: Jayda was never jealous. She peeped the bizarre and fell back. That reframing resonated deeply. Sometimes stepping away isn't insecurity, it's awareness. With Jayda, what stands out most is her restraint. In a culture that rewards public clapbacks and viral meltdowns, she chose silence. And silence isn't weakness, it's often power. She didn't spiral online. She didn't weaponize subtweets. She didn't rush to control the narrative. She simply removed herself. That kind of response usually comes from someone who already knows the truth and doesn't feel the need to prove it. If jealousy were the driving force, the reaction would have looked very different. Instead, what people saw was distance, and distance is often self-preservation. That's why the idea of Jayda exposing Ari is more nuanced than screenshots and receipts. Exposure doesn't always happen loudly. Sometimes it happens through contrast. Calm versus chaos. Restraint versus provocation. By staying quiet, Jayda allowed everyone else's actions to speak for themselves. That contrast alone made people start asking questions. Why does one person seem composed and detached while the other appears loudly unbothered? When indifference starts looking performative, suspicion follows. From the outside, Ari's behavior doesn't read as simple living life. There's a difference between moving on and making sure everyone sees you've moved on. The second often carries a need for validation. When someone repeatedly needs to prove they're winning, it raises the question of who they're trying to convince. That's where the theory that Ari's involvement with Lil Baby was driven by spite starts to feel plausible to some. Not proven, but believable within the context people were given. Spite doesn't always come from hatred. Sometimes it's rooted in insecurity, comparison, or the desire to feel chosen. If Ari ever felt overshadowed by Jayda, being connected to Lil Baby could have felt like a symbolic win. Not about love. Not even about him. But about access. About stepping into a space that once belonged to someone else. Whether that was the intention or not, that's how it was perceived, and perception matters when everything plays out publicly. What makes it feel especially uncomfortable is proximity. Dating someone's ex years later, with no overlap or shared circles, is one thing. Doing it when the history is fresh and the friendship wasn't clearly dead is another. That's the invisible line people keep coming back to. Even if no rules were technically broken, emotionally something feels crossed. And emotional violations always hit harder than technical ones. At the same time, it's only fair to acknowledge that none of us truly know what happened behind closed doors. Maybe the friendship was already over. Maybe boundaries were discussed privately. Maybe there was more distance than the public realized. But once actions play out online, interpretation becomes inevitable. And when someone leans into shock value, boldness, and exaggerated indifference, people become less willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. When "I don't care" turns into a performance, people start asking why. There's also a bigger, quieter dynamic at play here, one that shows up anytime women are positioned near fame, money, or power. Almost immediately, the story stopped being about individual behavior and turned into a rivalry narrative. Instead of asking what happened, people started asking who's winning. Jayda gets cast as the calm, dignified figure. Ari gets labeled as loud and chaotic. Those labels are reductive, but once they take hold, they shape everything. Silence becomes class. Visibility becomes insecurity. And from that point on, every move is judged through a pre-assigned role rather than on its own merit. Now, do I think there's hard proof that Ari slept with Lil Baby purely